this on? Can you hear me? Switch it off. On, off. Good. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, fellow land colleagues, all protocol observed. Thanks for making the time this morning to join this webinar. Kindly accept our profuse apologies for the delay. Unfortunately, technology failed us, but here we are. Before we start, I would like to request that we observe a brief moment of silence for our deceased land sister, Advocate Annette Nabanja of the Legal Department of the Uganda Petroleum Authority, whose funeral service is ongoing even as we start this seminar. A moment of silence, please. May her soul rest in eternal peace. I am Agnes Tibaita Isharaza, your moderator this morning. I would like to thank all those who have made this webinar possible, especially our cluster team, Mr. Patrick Turinawe, the support teams from the Uganda Law Society, and the NSSF technical teams. Thank you very much. I bring you greetings from the Uganda Labor Law and Retirement Benefits cluster, which organized this session. The cluster has resolved that we will be having interactions of this nature around topical and relevant topics around our cluster mandate. We would like that these benefit not only our clients, so we'll not be talking law or legal matters strictly today, but we want to discuss topical issues around our cluster mandate as affect us as lawyers as well. So this will be a session of self-introspection. We want to see how we can help ourselves as lawyers on the topic that we are going to discuss. I also bring you greetings from the National Social Security Fund, where I am employed as the Corporation Secretary. The fund has purposed itself to make saving a way of life for our members and our stakeholders. We are very passionate about this. And to this end, we have determined to make financial literacy a priority. And that is why NSSF is featuring in this discussion. We'll say a lot more about this later. And I also know that right now when we talk about NSSF, this is synonymous with the ongoing debate about our law. So I want to take the bull by its horns. We are waiting for the amendments as will be assented to by the President. And we assure you, our members, our stakeholders, that your money is there. It's safe, it's very safe, and it will be availed within the provisions of the amendments as will eventually be assented to. Our topic today is planning for retirement. Planning for retirement. And like I said, it's a moment of self-introspection for us as lawyers. Now let's not think about our clients, we're thinking about ourselves. And on this note, perhaps I would add that I know that on this call, we may have a couple of non-lawyers. So if you're on the call, kindly share your name, let us know who you are, so we know who we are speaking to, and please share your thoughts. So why the topic? Allow me use a Chiganda saying. The Baganda say, zikusooka nezitakuva mabega. Zikusooka enaku. Trials, tribulations, pain, suffering would rather come first, and later you have bliss, happiness, joy. This is what retirement could be. When you look ahead, what do you see? And I would like you to take a moment with me, just you as an individual. Don't think about your colleagues. You as an individual. And I know we've had these thoughts before. How do you envision your future? How do you envision your retirement? How do you envision your retirement? What do you see? 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, what do you see? I'll tell you, for me, I'm a mother. I can see, God willing, I would like to see my kids all grown up with their own families, self-dependent. I would like to be self-sufficient. I would like to do so many things. So the dream could go on. What do you see? That dream of yours. And I would like that you hang on to that dream as we have the discussion that we are going to have today. But I think I can imagine that we are all looking at happiness, bliss during those years of our lives when we'll be unable to go on. So the question that is begged then is, how do we achieve this dream? How do we get there? How do we get there? It starts now. So for some of us, we are already on the journey. Good for you. For some of us, we are yet to commence on the journey. Some have started, but will probably need some refocusing. Is for you. But one thing that is for sure is that we need to act. We need to act. The other day, if you'll allow me, for those who are not Christians, if you read the book of James, faith. So we may have the dream that you've just gone through now, you've envisioned. How will you achieve that dream? It could remain a dream. If you're a Christian, a religious person, you could pray and hope that God will intervene. God does intervene. But the same God, if we read in that book, says, faith must be accompanied by actions. In fact, if I recall, one of our preachers said, why do we think, and I would like to borrow this example, why do we think that the non-believers appear to prosper more than the believers in the real world? Maybe it's not true for you, but generally. And the answer is very simple. The non-believer is not clinging on to any hope or any miracle. The non-believer folds their sleeves and works. And I think that's what James was talking about. Show me your faith, I'll show you my works. And of course, if you work, the results will be evident. If you pray and don't work, clearly, that will also be, the results will be evident. So today, we would like to see how to apply this dream of ours for that time in our lives when we are unable to continue. I've been asked very recently, do we as lawyers retire? Do we lawyers retire? I don't know what your experience is, but for us in the corporate public service, definitely we have no choice. The law is clear, or the policies are clear. When you hit 55 or 60 years of age, you must leave. You have to leave. In the private sector, when do you retire? Do you even think about retirement? Or for the corporate and public service lawyer, indeed, when you leave this place that you've called home for a number of years, what happens thereafter? How do you live? Where do you go? So, again, just to borrow a South African proverb, old age does not announce itself. Old age does not announce itself, yeah? So we celebrate birthdays, and with each birthday, even as we celebrate, I think the wise then would know that it is announcing itself because it's taking you closer to that moment. So this webinar is for those of us who have not addressed our minds to the reality that old age will come, it's inevitable. It is coming. It is for those of us who have started on the journey, but may need a few pointers here and there. And it is for those of us who actually have stories to share to enable those of us who haven't started on the journey begin. For the young lawyer listening in, you're very, very lucky to have the opportunity to be able to share these experiences now. You are absolutely lucky. I recall as a young girl growing up, I thought, or rather I used to pray that I lived up to at least 35 years. Now then, 35 years for me was really old, and I'll tell you why. Those were the days when life seemed meaningless. We'd be going to school, you find dead bodies all over the place. Hear gunshots in the night, and people are dropping dead right, left, and center. And then unfortunately for me, I also lost my brothers. So it's like growing up was not guaranteed. So 35 seemed really old for me at that point. But here I am, many years later, thank God, still counting. But I wish I knew now what I knew when I started my life. I wish I knew now that I needed to start planning for now and for the years to come. So young lawyers, you're lucky. Then for those of us in my category, my age bracket, I think the age is evident, yeah, in my age bracket. So we like to debate whether we are halfway through our life, whether we are approaching the halfway stage, whether we've just passed the stage. And for me, I think we've passed the point. In any case, currently, I think the expectation now in Uganda is around 63 as of 2019, so I don't think it has changed much. So we are at that point in our lives where if we haven't thought about these things, we really must wake up. And unfortunately for us, this is the time where the responsibilities are enormous. For those of us who are parents, kids are growing. The demands of education are increasing. You who are in this situation would identify with what I'm saying. Some are just beginning to have children now, yeah? We have support systems, families relying on you to support them. You want that nice house for your family. You are running your law practice. You have employees looking up to you to support them. The pressure is on. It's enormous. But you have to think about yourself. You have to think about your children. You have to think about that time. So thankfully, we still have the energy, I believe. So let's go for it. And then there are those of our colleagues who I would say are in the evening years of their lives, but they still strive. They hustle and bustle for various reasons. Everyone has their own story. Some because that's all they can do. They don't know how to do anything else. For some, that's the only source of income. They have to keep striving, but the energy is ebbing. The energy is ebbing. I hope that for those of our colleagues in that category, I hope that at this point, at least you have a roof over your head to call your own. The basics of life, even as you strive to keep surviving. If you are in this category, thank God. If you're not, it is never too late. It is never too late. So in the right place. And on this note, I would like to introduce our speakers today. We are privileged to have a very experienced duo, a lady and gentleman with very rich experience in this area and knowledge that I am confident we shall benefit from as lawyers and our other colleagues on the call. So since the ladies here outnumber the gentlemen, I'll this time introduce the gentleman first. So it will not be ladies first, gentlemen first. So we have Mr. Apollo Mbowa, who is our customer financial advisor at NSSF. Apollo has worked in investment management, banking, and insurance industries prior to his current assignment. He has conducted hundreds, and literally hundreds of training with major emphasis on personal financial management. And I know that some of you have encountered him at various places. As a person, he has interests in transport, education, real estate, and agriculture. And he likes to remind his audience that he has failed at a number of projects. It's natural, you start, fail, and he has gotten up. Apollo is married to one beautiful wife and 3 children, King, Gold, and Crown. I love the names, King, Gold, and Crown. Wow. So Apollo will be speaking to us today. We are privileged to have him here at NSSF. We call him Mr. Headmaster. He actually runs a school, the School of Financial Literacy, with his other colleagues. And he has so many students in the public who have benefited from his experience. Apollo, I look forward to hearing from you, and I'm sure our audience looks forward to hearing from you. I would also like to introduce our second speaker, Miriam Masali, who is one of us in the Land Fraternity. Miriam is an accomplished legal consultant and advocate of the High Court. She has local and regional experience in consulting, regulation, and training within the financial services sector. For purposes of this webinar, I would like to focus on the fact that Miriam was formerly the acting managing director and chief operating officer of Alexander Forbes Financial Services, Uganda Limited, which was renamed Zamara Actuaries. Administrators and Consultants Uganda Limited. They did a lot of investment on behalf of members. So that's the experience that we want to take away from here. Currently, she's the Director Legal and Board Affairs at Capital Markets Authority. Miriam is quite a scholar. Miriam, I'll not go through this whole list of scholarly achievements. They are quite impressive. But again, for emphasis, she's a certified John Maxwell speaker, trainer, facilitator, and coach. She's spoken at many conferences and facilitates conferences internationally in the areas of corporate governance, pensions, and capital markets in the United Kingdom, South Africa, Malawi, Angola, Botswana, Kenya, need I go on? And of course here in Uganda. Miriam is also an author, and she's a director in some companies. So ladies and gentlemen, we are privileged to you all share with us their experience this morning, and I cannot wait to hear from them. But before we start, I would like to request that we conduct, we'll have a poll question. We would like to know whether you have any retirement, whether you're saving. Technical team, are we running the poll? Okay, if we're not ready, we'll run it later. We needed to just get a feel of our audience. We'll run it later. So without wasting much time, because we did lose a couple of minutes at the beginning, I apologize again. I would like to invite Apollo to give us a brief presentation. Miriam will do the same thereafter, and then we'll have a discussion. Kindly post any questions, comments, contributions in the chat, and we will be going through those. Thank you very much. Apollo, the floor is yours. Oh, the poll is now running. The question is, how many years have you been working? There are a couple of categories there, 2 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, 10 to 15 years. If you could kindly respond. Okay. I would like to see the results, hopefully, before Apollo starts, so we know who we are talking to. Great, so the results are here. We have 12% of our audience having worked for 2 to 5 years. The majority have worked for 5 to 10 years. We have 28% who have worked for 10 to 15 years, and 25% who have worked for more than 15 years. Great, thank you for responding. So Apollo, Miriam, when you're speaking, you now know your audience, you address them accordingly. And do we run a second poll question now? Colleagues, this is to enable our speakers ensure that they address the concerns of our audience, as will be indicated by your responses. Okay, so apologies, a bit of technical challenge there. We'll run it later. So Apollo, over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Apollo is my name. I don't want, when you're talking to the land colleagues, I'm trying to find my bearing. How do I address myself? How do I, amidst all the books, the years, you guys go through, lawyers, we respect you. If you've worked with a lawyer before, I need to first, if you are kind enough to share my slides, I need to give my disclaimer. If you have worked with lawyers before, for us who have worked, I have had a chance to work with lawyers, and when you are working with them in an institution, when you see them coming, you sort of give them way. You sort of feel like You don't need to breathe the same air they are breathing. You are lawyers. I mean, I don't know if you guys have gone down to yourselves and understood yourselves. You should be fearing yourselves because you are lawyers. You are lawyers. You are people we look up and say, if only I had grown up. You know, we haven't grown up yet. So you're a lawyer, and that is one. You are already 10 places ahead of the public. I mean, we have. I don't even know myself. What do I have some degrees, but what do they call me? But you as a person, you are a lawyer. You have a name. You have a title. So today I've been asked, and if they are kind enough to go to the next slide, I've been asked to just speak about retirement. But before I go about retirement, this is just to the public, to the people who are not lawyers. And I'm telling you, you guys, you are overpaid. Anyone else that is not a lawyer, you are overpaid. You will know that you are overpaid, and people will say, no, they're paying me peanuts. Lawyers, don't listen to this message. I just thought I needed to say something before I go to the lawyers. You are overpaid. If in your life a new salary excites you, lawyers don't get excited over a new salary. If a new salary excites you for 3 months, and for that first 3 months you are excited, you are happy, you humble applied, and you are just know you are overpaid. If after 3 months that excitement goes away and you start complaining again, just know you are overpaid. You are overpaid if your needs multiply much faster than the increment on your salary. So your salary comes in and they have given you a 500,000 increment, and then you move into a house of 1 million. Just know you are overpaid. You've been in a house of 150, now you're moving into a house of 1 million just because your increment. You are overpaid if you will not quit if your salary is cut into half. Now, most of us out there are under the beat of that we are underpaid, but we are not leaving the places where we are. We are not going into where we can get the actual pay. And indeed, if they come to us and they say, let's cut your pay, you will still work. So if you can still work with half the pay, with the same complaints you've been having with full pay, just know you are overpaid. So ladies and gentlemen, if you will know that you are overpaid if no one demands you for a premium. Now, I need you to understand, as a lawyer, you are, these things don't apply to you. And I will get, these things are applying to the public. If you are not being demanded at a premium, you know you're saying you are underpaid, but you are not leaving that place. And no, even when you try to leave, you threaten to leave, no one is asking to employ you. Just know you are overpaid. That is for you, the non-land friends. For this morning, because I've been given a chance to speak to the lawyers and the land fellas, I will leave that side of the public, and now I will call myself a fellow land colleague for at least for the next 1 hour, and I will say, we are not overpaid. For us, we are paid at value. What we give them is what they pay us. And I even think we are underpaid, us as land friends. But to get into the perspective, I work with the NSSF, and we have a picture here. We have about a workforce of a workforce of about 17 million people. Of those 17 million people, only 11% have a pension fund or someone looking at them at retirement. Meaning that when they get to retire, someone will come and say, take this money home, or I will take care of you until you die in form of a pension. So only 11% of the 17 million people. So if you are part of the people who are in that 11%, tap yourself and you know you are on the right track. At NSSF here, let's go to our money, the money that is being amended for. The balances are showing us that only 7%, please go back to the first slide, only 7% of us, of the balances we have, are above 50 million. What that means that only 7% of our members have a balance above 50 million. 93% of us have a balance below 50 million. And that should put you in perspective. When 93% of the people come for their money, they will take home less than 50 million. 50 million in Kampala right now can't do anything. If you try to buy a plot in Kampala, you will not buy one. You will buy one from Chijabijo, where one of my colleagues comes from. You will not buy anything from Kampala. So, meaning you have left your village, you've come to Kampala, you have told the people in the village, I'm not returning to the village, and then they retire you and give you less than 50 million, and you now have to go back to the village and disturb people with your English, with their 50 million. And yet, also the statistics are showing us that 80% of the working population actually slightly above, towards 90, have only NSSF as their retirement package. At NSSF, also here we have another figure that keeps disturbing us. 50 billion, and most people will ask me, where is this money? 50 billion leaves NSSF and goes into the public every month. 50 billion leaves NSSF and goes to qualifying members every month. Now, most of you will ask me to show evidence of this, and I may not be able to. I can show you evidence of the money leaving, but I can't show you evidence of where that money is. Where is that money going? Because if 50 billion is entering the economy, where is it? Is it being reflected? That disturbs us. And 5% of our members retire financially independent. Now, if you're a lawyer and you've been able to afford coffee at Java's, when you retire or when you stop your active employment, you shall still be able to afford that coffee at Java's. That's what financial independence means. It means that if you have been driving a car while in employment, you will be still able to drive a car in your retirement. But only 5% of our members are able to do that. Only 5% of retired, not just NSSF members, but of retiring population is able to afford a lifestyle they were accustomed to. So most of us drop in level. If you're kind enough, we'll go to, I won't bore you with the statistics. So as the NSSF, our focus, and thanks to the good partnership with ULS, we are going out to the public and saying, let's engage you, let's engage your children, let's engage your parents, let's engage you while you are in employment. So that whatever you need to do in retirement, let's do it now. So we have our initiative around. Some of you are already old enough that we cannot say anything that will change, but let's give us a chance to talk to your children, and let's tell them about, you are 7 years. Let's tell them that in 48 years you're going to be retiring. Can you start preparing? Because for some of you, if we tell you about these things now, we shall just break you. You have already done your mistakes. We can only pray for you to rest well. But we can't do much. But let's allow us to go to your children. Allow us to go back to, let's go to your neighbors. Let's go to anyone around you. Because our NSSF member will not retire in peace if the ecosystem around them has not retired in peace. Let's go to your parents. Let's ask them. Let's talk about retirement, because this subject needs to be explored. And we are thankful for ULS this morning for giving us a platform. This Mbowa Apollo is now talking to the land friends, and I hope you people on video are getting this. I need to take this. It should be good for a loan. If I take this in, and if I take this photo when I'm behind this, I can be able to acquire a loan because I'm talking to the land friends. So let's go to you, the lawyer. If Shadrach, you're good in, to go to the next slide. You, the lawyer, the lawyer, you come with a title. Now, I need you to understand who you are in the perspective of us, the public who see you. You are a lawyer. You have a title. We don't just call you Nachi. We call you Counsel something. We don't just call you Agnes, Counsel Agnes. You are a lawyer. I mean, for God's sake, I need you to start appreciating that you are a lawyer. 4 years of school, so many books. I was asking one of my team members how much they read, and she was quoting, I read every morning. I go past 5 billboards. I read them. I mean, but lawyers go past books and books and books. So you are a mwaule. You are separated from the rest. So love this. Lawyers have their language. You know, the English language is not even enough. They have to borrow words from Latin, because that is how big you are. You are even too big for the English language. You have to. This morning I was talking about. I was looking for those Latin language. I could only remember ceteris paribus in economics. I could hibiscus, something like that. But you are. I mean, when you are making your points, one of my teammates was asking, but don't lawyers, when they are arguing, don't they feel like they need to say, allow me for, sorry for that. But then I remember they use other words in Latin, hibiscus, something. But you are a lawyer. The money is good as a lawyer. These are things I'm telling you from this side, and this is how we judge you. We have no excuse for being poor if you are a lawyer, because this is what we see. You are in a suit all the time. I mean, a lawyer, you are in a suit. You have the ability to work for life as a lawyer because your skill is up here. You have the ability to determine your pay. Now, if you are a lawyer and you don't start asking your questions, do I have the ability to determine my pay? Because that's what us, the world, we think about you. And then you ask yourself, is retirement relevant to me? If I have the ability to determine my pay, I have the ability to work for life, do we need to be discussing this topic of retirement? Because I am a lawyer. And my answer is, if Shadrach is good enough to go to the next slide, my answer is in a few of these good words. It's relevance. Why? Now, every time you find that you are working on appearances and neglecting the reality, as a lawyer, working on appearances and neglecting the reality, that is a trigger for you to understand that you need to work on your retirement. Because right now, much as we have said you have all those things, that is what we see. What is your reality? Are you working poor? You'll know that you are working poor if money excites you. As a lawyer, when the conversation of money comes up, you have nothing to add to it. But when the money comes into your life, you can't settle until you have finished that money. So as a lawyer, much as we see the reality that you're a lawyer, the appearance that you're a lawyer, your reality is you are working poor. You are working poor when if you're a conduit of money. Money just comes in and money goes out. You are working poor if, and you know, some people think that poor, you can't be poor if you have the English and all that. Poverty now comes dressed in English and in suits. So you can be a poor person as a lawyer walking on the street, but you cannot afford your next meal. You are just one check away from begging. You can be working with. So lawyers, as we look at your appearance, start looking at your reality. What is my reality? Does money excite me? Does money, when I get money, if money starts pushing you to places, and now that you have 100 million, let me not talk about thousands, I'm not talking to teachers, I'm talking to lawyers. You have 100 million, you cannot settle until that 100 million is depleted. No, you need to work on retirement, and retirement is relevant for you, because right now, up until now, you have been working just on your appearances and not your reality. Retirement is really relevant for you, because if you find yourself, you have these great excuses for your poverty and high indebtedness. You have always something, you have a word and saying, no, money is lost. If you're in the conversation of money is lost, and while people are prospering, you're saying money is lost, oh, we shall get there. When we get there, we shall get there. Let's take our pay. If you're mistaking attention for respect, just because people attend to you, I told you when we see lawyers in the corridors, we give them the attention. We need to give them. So if you're mistaking that attention for respect, ladies and gentlemen, I need to tell you, poverty will not be respected. With all the titles, as a council, you will retire and we cannot respect you. We cannot even give you treasurer in a church, in one of those village churches, as a poor person. So if you know that you are having great excuses for your poverty, this is a trigger for you to start understanding that you need to plan for retirement. If you are posing as great, but 1 month away from begging, as a lawyer, 1 month away from begging, if that check does not come in, you are begging. And begging is not that you are on the streets begging, but you are knocking on people, you're calling your clients and telling them, send me 100,000, send me 400,000, send me this. You can even say, send me this in fees. You are asking for your future. You're asking them to pay in advance. Just because one payment did not come in, you have already started begging. If you know you're a beggar, that is a beggar. You're a beggar. It's a trigger for you to start planning for your retirement. If you are driving that Porsche car, but you are always, it's a prayer altar, you are asking God, Lord, if you get me to office without this fuel getting finished, I will praise you, I will praise you. If you have already started begging God, this is becoming, you are a beggar, and you need to start planning for your retirement, because these are trigger things that you need to understand, that much as I'm a lawyer, I can work for life, I can determine my pay. But if these questions are still answering in affirmative, then you need to plan for retirement. As a lawyer, you are into the legend thing. We are lawyers. Just because you've seen one of the very good advocates is driving a certain car, so you also need to drive into that car. You need to be into that. You need to be into that suit. You need to take holidays where these advocates take their holidays. I don't want to mention names here. I am being cautious, but you know of those big names, and we know where they take their children to school, and you say, because I'm a lawyer, he's a lawyer, let me also take my children to that school. If you are having that mentality, just know, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow land friends, you need to look at your retirement, because retirement is going to look different. Please, if you may, let's go on, and I need to leave these people to enjoy their peace. If you get money monthly and keep nothing monthly, you get money monthly. You're a broker of money. Money comes in, money goes out. You're a conduit, you're a distributor. For you receive, you are a funnel. Money comes in, money goes out. As a lawyer, you need to start thinking about the retirement question. If the next deal, if your mentality is the next deal, we'll do that when I get the next deal. This year, if I get that deal, I was discussing with one of our fellow land friends, and they were talking about how there is increased interest in public litigation. I hope those are the words. I want to look smart. Increased interest in public litigation, and we are there. You know, when you're talking to lawyers, you are not discussing. You are making an argument. So one of us was making an argument and saying it is because that lawyers are now good-hearted and they want to see the public prosper. But then, at the back of our minds, another colleague said, no, they are just looking for money, because public institutions are where you can just get money. So the next deal mentality, now that you have exhausted all the other bits, you start going, let me go for that entity and I sue it. Let me sue them for putting a poster where it shouldn't be. Let me sue them for negligence of their employee. You are not even that. You just interest the employee and you tell them, by the way, you are being neglected. Let's sue, so that you can get the next deal. And you're sure that you will do greater things when you get that deal out. If you are still having that mentality, start planning for retirement. If you are spending money you do not have to buy things you do not need, to impress people that you do not know, that is a question you need to, that is a trigger that you need to start thinking about retirement. And finally, if you are living in the shadow of the title, when I started, I told you about how we praise lawyers. But if I need you to understand that, yes, you are a lawyer, but you are a human being first. You are a person. And money respects no human being. So you will not, there is no law against you being poor. You will be poor with your title. You will be poor in your suit. You will be poor with all the books and titles behind you. I was the former this, I was this and this, I was that, I was then this. From there, I argued in the Supreme Court. From the Supreme Court, I went to the Court of Appeal. I don't know if that's order. From the Court of Appeal, I went to the High Justice. So all those, you will do all those things and you have them on your CV. But if you do not articulate yourself as a person, and you understand that as a person, that title is ahead, is just a title, you may die poor. Ladies and gentlemen, experience. If you're putting experience ahead of expertise, I have been a lawyer 30 years, 20 years, that's experience. But what expertise do you have? I mean, I do not need 30 years to gain certain expertise. I may need a year. That is what we call growing up. You may be growing old. As they said, yeah, Agnes, old age has not announced itself. But are you actually growing up? Are you working hard but hardly working? Ask yourself those questions. Are you putting your title ahead of you? And ladies and gentlemen, if these answers, these are personal questions, take the lawyer out of you and let's have this discussion as persons. Because in the public there, when poverty comes, it doesn't come, this is for NSSF staff, this is for lawyers, this is for accountants. And if it is there that this is poverty for lawyers, I will tell you that poverty for lawyers should still be making push-ups, because it comes with a lot of it. You are exposed to money and then all of a sudden it goes away. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to wind up and I will give you my 5 takeaways. Before we go to those 5 takeaways, we've been talking about retirement, but I need to redefine retirement. Retirement is not an age. It's not an age. So as some of you, maybe the young lawyers are saying, for me, I still have so many years to retire. Why do we need to talk about? No, retirement is not an age. Retirement is an amount. And you can hit that amount at 30, at 45. I had a dream to hit it at 30. That dream I will not share anymore because I have past 30. It is an amount. And when you hit that amount, what you do after that is service. You are in ministry. You are doing your passion. You are having your hobby. Are you working because you need to work, or are you working because it is service? When that person hits that amount and they have a public litigation, I can say they are doing it out of service, because for us, retirement is an amount. So if you are, your amount, define your amount. Go down and define your amount. Your amount could be $1 billion. and your amount could be 100 million. If you hit that amount and it is on your account or it is in assets, not cars, those cars are not assets, then you can say, I have retired. Anything working after that is just service. That is when you will find most people saying, for us, we are in ministry. We are not working for a paycheck. We have money working for us. We are no longer working for money. My 5 takeaways as I go away. Shadrach, if I can have my 5 takeaways, I need you to take action. All this, the essence of knowledge is to do. You have knowledge, and I will tell you, 4 years of law school, 1 year of LDC, 2 years of master's class, then some years of PhD, then so many years of practice. No one ever teaches you about money. You have labor law, but in labor law, we are not discussing how much you get. You are discussing, who should I sue when they don't give me this money? No one teaches you about money. So right now, when you get this information, it's only a few people that are paid to talk. I am paid to talk. Miriam, my land colleague here, is a John Maxwell speaker. She's paid to talk. So if you are not paid to talk, why are you talking about money? Do. Go and do. Don't talk. Leave us to talk because we are the ones being paid to talk. Let me talk. I can talk and talk and talk. And for you, what you need to do is action. Take responsibility. Take charge of your life. My land friends, take charge of your life. This business of accusing everyone else for your misery, for your not having money, for your next check has not come in, these guys have not paid us, clients are poor lately. Everything is about everyone else, not you. When the fuel, when you don't have no fuel, you talk about how Museveni raised fuel prices, but it's you who bought the car. I mean, take charge and take responsibility. Grow up and don't just grow old. Old age is gold, but no one takes gray hair in a supermarket and they purchase something. I have quite a number of gray hair, but I do not get things for free just because I have gray hair. So grow up. Growing up means that you need to start understanding how do we take things and how do we position ourselves. It means you planning for your for 2 generations ahead of you, planning for your next for the generation after your children, not just planning for the next supper. When you have, as a lawyer, just imagine in your house you are a lawyer, but then you go home and these are the conversations you have. You are having conversations about sugar, conversations about salt, conversations about soap. Who ate the soap? Why did you misuse the soap? You have finished the ayaka. Those are the conversations you have. And finally, money is habits. Habits, and habits. Money is habits. It's not about the money. It's not how much money you are receiving, but what you are doing to get in the money. And finally, appreciate that process. My fellow land friends, when you appreciate that process, you should understand that every lawyer, all our land friends think when you get out immediately you need to drive a Mercedes Benz. Appreciate the process. Appreciate how long did it take this advocate to get that Benz, and what did he do? What did he do? So appreciate the process and go into that school of learning. Go into that school of life learning and move to that. Don't think you are just going to get out of law school and immediately you will command a salary of 10 million and you will live happily ever after. Allow me to stop here and I say, at NSSF we believe action changes things. When you act, things in your life change. Things probably are not changing in your life because you lack action. Quit the talking and embrace action. Allow me to stop here and I say thank you.
Great. Apollo, thank you so much for that very direct and very provocative. I think for the lawyers are not used to being talked to the way Apollo has done, but I hope you understand why he had to. At the end of the day, it's you and I as individuals. The title does not matter anymore. So we are speaking today as friends, as colleagues, and we are learning about matters, financial literacy. Before Miriam comes on, I would like to request that we run a poll question which speaks to the challenge Apollo has left with us. that we must act. He said, don't talk, do. So I would like to know from you, are you saving with any retirement fund currently? Are you saving with any retirement fund? Kindly respond to the poll question, and then Miriam will come on. Thank you. Please share the results as soon as they're in. Are you saving with any retirement fund? Have you started acting? Good, thank you. So the results I see here are, we have about 46% of our audience saving with the NSSF. Thank you very much. We have about 8% saving with others. We have 36% saving with NSSF and others. That is the group to be in. And we have 10% who are not saving with anyone. So Miriam, you're welcome to speak to the audience, knowing where we are in our various levels of action. Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much. It's such a privilege, such an honor for me to be here today. And I also feel very provoked by Apollo. I think he did a very good job of making us so uncomfortable and taking us to the next level of deciding what is it that I really want, what is it that I want to do. So now that we have been provoked, I just want to ask the host, just enable me to share my screen. Thank you. Okay, no problem. Okay, no problem. So now that we've been provoked, my question is, now what? You know, you've heard all the things that Apollo had to say to you, and you feel like, I'm in that category. That's me. Now what? What are you going to do about it? I want to just help us to be able to look at how do we actually move forward. So how do we plan for retirement? What do we do about it? What's your intention after today? What are the steps that you're going to take you from where you have been, the places we've been talking about, to where you actually want to be? I want you to take time to write in the chat, what are you going to do about it? What is your intention? I'll tell you what my intention is. My intention today is to equip you and enable you to plan for a comfortable retirement. That is why we are here. We want you to go to the next step. We want you to go to the next level. We want you to put in place plans that can actually help you to get the kind of retirement that you deserve. That is our intention today. So it's interesting. There's some statistic that I found that was very, very interesting. This is about the 8 things we fear about retirement. 8 things people fear about retirement. Number 1, this was taken among workers who were aged 50 and older, and they said that the following were their greatest fears in retirement. 43% were afraid of outliving their savings and investments. 43%. Have I saved enough? Will I live longer than my money is able to sustain me in retirement? We had about 38% who were concerned about health care. Social security. Some people were saying, okay, I have social security, but will it last? Will it last? Will it be there when I need it the most? 27% says, will we have affordable health care? Some of them, of course, were very concerned about diseases, dementia. Some of them were wondering, will I have a meaningful way to spend my time? So you can see there are so many things that worry people about retirement. But number 1 is, have I saved enough? My question to you today is, have you saved enough? We have people who've been very honest during the poll, and they've said, for me, I haven't saved anything. And you are the people that we're interested in. You're the people that NSSF is interested in. You're people that the Law Society is interested in to see you move from that place to take action. Can we move the slides? So there's no single solution to creating the best retirement system. It's very interesting. This is the CFA institution. The CFA Institute. And they were saying that there's no single solution. When it comes to retirement, every country has to find something that works for them, something that takes into consideration their own circumstance. And I liked this because there's no solution that is similar for everybody when it comes to retirement. It is a tailor-made solution for you as an individual. No one is going to give you the answer. You yourself have to think about a solution that fits you. So it's not a one-size-fits-all when it comes to planning for your retirement. It has to be tailor-made. So how are you going to put in place a plan that works for you? How are you going to do that? That's our concern today. How are you going to put in place that plan? So retirement is when you withdraw from one's active working life. And I mean, people say lawyers don't retire, but you know, sometimes the bonds do get weak. My dad is a lawyer. He's a retired judge of the High Court. And it's very interesting that he just kept working. Even when he retired from the High Court as a judge, he kept working. He started a law firm. He worked and worked and worked. And then at about the age of 83, we had a family meeting and we retired him. So you may be in that category. Okay, we reached a point where the whole family got involved and they said, don't go back. So now he goes to the farm to read newspapers, but he doesn't go to court anymore. So imagine that. There will be a time, you too will grow old, when the body begins to feel, you know, maybe I can't go anymore. And that is really the time that we are looking at. That is retirement. It's that withdrawal from that active life that you are leading. Okay? It is that withdrawal. So what is your retirement goal? It's very important for you to think of a retirement goal. You know, people have goals for everything. People have fitness goals. They have health goals. They have a goal of how much money they want to earn when they get a job. They have a goal of who they want to marry. How come you don't have a retirement goal? That's step number one in retirement planning. You have to dream. I like what Agnes said at the beginning, that think about what you want in retirement. Many times when people close their eyes, actually wherever you are, just close your eyes. People close their eyes and they imagine retirement by the beach. How come we're all going to the beach? The beach is going to be flooded when people are in retirement. Okay? So the first question is, where will you live? Where will you live? Where are you actually going to live? Is it going to be by the beach? Is that what you're thinking? Or is it going to be in a shack? Because sometimes what we think and the reality are two different things, okay? They are two different things. So some of you have in mind the beach, but guess what? When you go to your village, this is actually what you have, if you have anything at all. So when you're thinking about your retirement plan and your goals, think about where you're going to live. And when you think about where you're going to live, the most important thing for you is to think about retiring in a location with a lower cost of living. It's so interesting how everyone is going to the village, but they don't even know the village mates. They haven't been there in years. Even their parents and their uncles and aunties live in the city. So how come it's you going to the village? Is that practical? So you have to start thinking about these things. So you need to think about the cost of living where you live. Maybe you think you're going to Hoima. But maybe in Hoima, because of the oil wells, the cost of living has gone up. Or maybe you think you're going to go to the north, and the cost of living has gone up because of all the NGOs that are in the north and have been running programs there, and even accommodation is charged in dollars. So you need to do some research. Some of you are sending your children to study abroad. Guess where you're going to live? You're going to live in Washington. Because you want to be near your children. So you have to think about the decisions you make today and how they impact your life later on. Many of our parents are now maintaining a home in the village and a home in the city. But many of them thought they'd live in the village, but their children are not in the village. They're in town. So guess where they're living? In Kampala. So you have to think about that. The next thing is, who will you be with? I like this picture. This is a picture of my parents. They are my greatest example of retirement planning. They have been married for 53 years. Who will you be with? It's interesting when we talk about retirement planning, people have a short-term view of relationships, and yet they think they'll be with that person long-term. It is so funny. People treat their spouse as if they can walk out the door tomorrow, but when you ask them, who will you be with? My wife. Your wife? You're not going to have a wife if you keep treating her like that. So even when it comes to retirement planning, you have to think about who you will be with. If you think about the statistics I showed you earlier, I showed you that about 9% of people are afraid of being isolated and lonely. Isolated and lonely. So the other question is, who are your friends going to be? Good question. All our friends are on WhatsApp and Facebook. We have changed our friends into virtual friends, isn't it? So who are you going to talk to in retirement? Who are you going to tell that my back is hurting? You know, my mom tells me that when you go to the doctor, you go in and it was your back. But when he asks you, it's now the leg and it's the eye. So you don't know how to answer the doctor. Do I first tell him about the eye or do I tell him about the leg? All that is retirement planning. Who are your friends? Who will your friends be when you're 65? Some people think their friends will be the people at work. I'm sorry to tell you. If you're a senior lawyer, your friends are not going to be the clerkship students today. When you leave the firm, they delete your number. Isn't it? That's just the reality. So you have to start to think about these things. Who will your friends be? What will your health look like? What will your health look like? It's in people work their whole lives making money. Then in retirement, they turn around and use it for medical procedures. Think about it. We see this all the time. All through their life when they were young, they can jog, they can exercise, they can be healthy, they can eat well. They're doing all the wrong things. Then all the money they've accumulated is for an operation in India. That is a poor plan. So when it comes to health, you need to have a plan of what your health will look like. Good nutrition, regular exercise, annual health checkups. These are things that you constantly must be doing. And remember, when you think about retirement, the greatest cost is healthcare. So how do you reduce your costs? Just be healthy today. Take it into consideration today. Take care of your health today. Okay? What will your hobbies be? This is very interesting. You find lawyers who don't do anything else. You ask them, what do you like to do? Like, what? They don't even understand the question. Do you swim? Do you do golf? Do you run? What do you like? Do you cook? We have even forgotten about passions. We've forgotten about hobbies. What is it that you like to do apart from going to court? What is it that you love? Can you imagine learning to play golf at 55? Oh dear. And unfortunately, you have the money. But maybe your swing won't be so good. How about learning to swim at 50? So you have to think about your hobbies. What is it that you'll do? One of my colleagues told me something very interesting. He said he swims a lot now because that's his retirement plan for his health. So he has been increasing the intensity of how he swims. He says when you're older, you just need an exercise that's easy. For him, it's swimming. So guess what? He swims today a lot. That's a good plan. So what will your hobbies actually be in retirement? You need to be thinking about that. How much money will you have? The money question. The money question. How much money will you have? You have to determine today how much you'll have in retirement. I don't know why we think that retirement will just bring us miracles. Think about what people withdraw from NSSF. I think Apollo said it's about 200,000. And the individuals, the average? 93% are below 50 million after saving all their lives. Can you imagine? 93%. So how much are you putting away for retirement? How much money will you actually have when you retire? And then we have these retirement myths. I like retirement myths. Very interesting. That's why I've even put fire on them so that you can think about it and just see how disastrous it is. People say, why do I need to save so much money? I will not live until 90. So people are going around saying, no, it's not necessary. After all, I will not live until 90. I want to ask you, you need to understand what we call longevity. Longevity risk. It is actually a risk. That is a risk that you will live longer than your retirement savings. It is a risk. And what has happened now is we have an increase in life expectancy. Some work has been done around this by the World Health Organization. And they have come to realize that in Africa, they are seeing an increase in life expectancy from 61 years to 77 years. I have a friend whose mother celebrated 100 years. 100. My husband, his grandmother died at 100. People are dying at 100 years. Why? Because there's increase in medicine. We have a lot of anti-aging treatments. Women live longer than men every. Let me tell you, this is global. If you're a woman and you're listening to this, the chances that you'll outlive your husband, statistically, are there. So you will live long. We will come for your 100th birthday. So don't say, oh, I may die tomorrow. No, you're not God. So you must plan for longevity, risk. The risk that you may not be able, that your money may not be able to sustain you and that you will live longer. Okay? And then there's another myth. People say, I'll not need much money in retirement. Yeah, I'm retired. You know, it's so interesting. I'm retired. What do I need money for? Oh, yes, you will need money in retirement. So I want you to do this simple exercise. I want you to calculate how much you will need for your retirement. I want you to calculate it after this session. And how will you do that? Let me tell you how you're going to do that. I want you to estimate your annual living expenses in retirement. Include healthcare. Just sit down, look at how much am I spending. Estimate how much will I be spending in retirement. Calculate 80% of it, because we are saying maybe your children are out of school and things like that. Multiplied by the number of years you expect to live. So if you're 40 and you're thinking, oh, I'll live another 50 years, multiply it by that, okay? And then add up how much income you expect to receive in retirement. This is the time to pull out that statement, the NSSF statement that you get, or your Provident Fund statement. Look at how much you have saved. If your retirement income exceeds the expenses, my brother, my sister, you have enough. Congratulations. We're clapping for you right now. You've saved enough. Well done. Wow, good job. But let me tell you, very few people have exceeded what they need. I remember being in a conference in Mombasa about a year ago. I was speaking at a conference there, and it was so interesting. We were so many people in the room, hundreds and hundreds of people, and we went to do this kind of exercise with an actuary. And in a conference that had hundreds of people, guess how many people had saved enough for retirement? 1. And this was in Kenya. 1. So the chances that you've already saved enough for retirement are quite low. It's quite low. So you need to know the gap. You know, when you do this calculation, you go back and you respect your boss. You're not the kind of person who say, even if they chase me from the law firm, I can go to another one. You first do the exercise, my sister. You will hold on to the job. It will become a very attractive job to you because you'll understand the reality of what you need to save to have a comfortable retirement. So these are some of the things that you need to do when it comes to having a comfortable retirement. Now, this is another myth. I'll do farming. You know, all the corporates are now farmers. Oh, my God. When I hear people talking like this, I just want to laugh and fall down. This is someone who paints their nails. They don't even want to do a flower garden at home. They don't even have vegetables. They don't even go and dig and get some vegetables to put on their table. All of a sudden, we're all farmers. Really, are farmers? So now what are people saying? No, it's okay. Even me, I'll do farming. Hey, that's another myth. So I want to tell you some realities about farming. When it comes to farming as a retirement plan, I want you to know that it takes some years before you have a positive cash flow when it comes to farming. Most people who are successful in farming as a way of raising money for their retirement have put in at least 10 years before they retire. 10 years. 10 years. You need to gather information and knowledge on farming. There are a lot of expos on farming right now. Attend those. Farmland and equipment is expensive. So you need to do a proper, realistic budget. And then the people who really get the most out of farming are people who are passionate. They are passionate about farming, and they are also passionate about having it as a source of income. So there are people who just love the smell of goats, the smell of hens, the smell of pigs. They are the ones who do farming in retirement. Are you that kind of person? So farming for retirement is something that you really, really must take consideration in when it comes to planning for your retirement. Now, the second thing you need to do is save more towards retirement. Do additional voluntary contributions. I know NSSF now has the voluntary contributions. Save more. Remember, you're only putting in 15%, isn't it, for NSSF? But if you look at your gap, and your gap is wider, why don't you do it voluntarily? Why don't you take that opportunity? A lot of pension funds now do that. So margin and save more towards retirement. There are things that you can obviously do. Some of you have a negative cash flow. That one I can't even go into right now. But I think Apollo provoked you about that. That one is just bad manners. You get a man begging. That one I can't even deal with today. Okay? That habit must change. Aim to progress from pillar 1 to 4. When we talk about pensions, we have the pension pillars. Pillar 1 is basic. Here is where we have what we call SAGE, the Social Assistance Grant Program, if you've heard of it. It's a basic level. Then we have mandatory pensions. So NSSF is under pillar 2. And then we have what we call voluntary pensions. This is where you can put an additional saving on top of your NSSF. And then we have pillar 4, which is really private, other savings that are outside the pension system. If you're saving well for retirement, you need to move from pillar 2 to pillar 4, or from pillar 1 to pillar 4. It's important for you to move through that so that you are even saving voluntarily and you are even saving privately. So you need to move through the pension pillars. Very, very key for you to do that. So you need to also aim for 60% of the net replacement rate. When we talk about the replacement rate in pensions, we are basically saying the amount of money that replaces what you were earning, okay? The amount of money that replaces what you were earning. So statistically, they say 60 to 75 or 80% is very good replacement ratio. Guess what? If someone was earning 5 million net, and her annual net income was 60 million. For them to achieve a 60% net replacement ratio, it means they have to save about 3 million a month. Imagine that. What does that show you? We're just not saving enough. We are just not saving enough. So you want to aim for a replacement rate of at least 60% when it comes to what will replace your regular income in retirement. That's very important. You can also consider working longer. There are people who can't wait to retire. But now if you have nothing, can you go back and just be humble at work? Work longer. When you work longer, you delay withdrawing from the Provident Fund or from NSSF. And if you do that, you'll have a shorter time that you have to use the money you have. So if you're planning to retire at 50, maybe you can work longer. It's also something that you can do. You can work longer. And then the other thing you can do is you can preserve your occupational provident fund when you change jobs. It's interesting how so many people are saving with pension funds. But an opportunity to change employment from Sebalu to Max, from Max to the other law firm. You take all of it and you use it. And what do you use it for? Cars. That's what people are using their money for. It's unfortunate. So preserve that when you change jobs. And then it's also important for us to look at how we withdraw, okay? It's important that you leave your money invested for a longer time, okay? So options of withdrawing is very, very important. We call it the decumulation phase. You have saved, you're over 55, you're over 50. It is now time to withdraw from the fund. Because it's time to withdraw from the fund, it's important for you to look at the options, okay? It's important for you to also look at how you invest. We call this the life cycle. The way you invest at age 20 is not the same way you invest at age 40. It's not the same way you invest at age 60. At age 60, you're preserving. You're putting your money in assets that you can preserve their value. At age 20, you're a risk taker. Maybe you're in the stock market. So it's important for you to have that perspective. Very, very important. Leverage on tax benefits. Employee contributions into a pension fund are taxed, but employer contributions are not taxed, okay? The investment income is taxed. When you get your lump sum from NSSF, it will not be taxed. So be aware of that. Instead of getting your money and saving it where it will be taxed, get your money and put it in a fund like NSSF, where when you get it, it shall not be subject to tax. So think about where you're saving for retirement, okay? Prepare for your decumulation, like I said. And when it comes to the decumulation, I want you to think about the best time to withdraw. One time a friend of mine said, Miriam, do you know that I am making 50 years on this date next year? On that day, I'll wear my best dress and I'll get my ID, national ID, and I'll go to NSSF and I'll say, give me my money. Wrong plan. You have to think about the best time to withdraw. If you can delay withdrawal, it's actually good for you. So one of the things that you can do in terms of the best time that you can withdraw, think about the lump sum versus income drawdown. NSSF has evolved to be able to give you income drawdown options. It means that you don't have to take your 50 million. Maybe you can take 5 million. And then the next month you take another amount. That's what we call an income drawdown. If you're a couple, I've already told you, statistically, women live longer. So instead of both spouses, now for married age mates, they're now all 55. And they have the same birthday. Then they come for their money. Then they spend it all. And then they become destitute. Bad plan. If you're thinking about retirement planning, let one spouse withdraw, preferably the one who statistically may not live longer. And then let the other enjoy. And then when it is over and is gone, you also withdraw, okay? But you have to think about how you're going to withdraw. Will you withdraw at 55, 65, or 70? If you have alternative income, delay withdrawal. Your money will still be accessible, okay? Your money will still be accessible. Lastly, you need to draw a retirement budget, and you need to leave the budget. Don't draw the retirement budget when you've got the money, because you'll be like the person Apollo talked about, excitement. All of a sudden, 500 million. What will I do with it? There's a time I had someone say a really sad story in a very humorous way. The person said they got their retirement package and they were so excited. And they went and bought pigs. And the swine came and it's a sad story. But the swine came, they got swine fever. All the pigs died. And there goes his retirement. Guess what? He's still working. Bad plan, right? So you have to have a plan, you have to have a budget, and you have to think about health care, because health care is actually key. And then you have to plan your legacy. Let me tell you the saddest thing. It's people who write a will, okay? And I'm hoping you've written your will. It's part of estate planning. You write a will and you've left the house to your son. Then now you sell the house. The very thing you call the legacy is what you are selling in retirement. Isn't that sad? And even your son is like, Dad, are you sure you're selling the house? Because poor boy thought, maybe perhaps Muzei may give me this asset. Now you're eating the legacy. So I want to implore you as I conclude. Retirement planning is about planning for retirement. It's about living the plan, and it's about living a legacy. So thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you, Apollo, for provoking us. Thank you, Miriam. I think Miriam's passion can be felt even through the screen. That's how passionate she is about this subject. Very interesting discourse. So my learned friends and other colleagues on the call, this topic is really deep. We cannot do justice to it in this 1.5 hours that we had scheduled. We are really touching on the surface. Retirement is even a subject, I believe, yeah? I think Miriam, in your master's, So we're just touching on the surface just to provoke us as individuals, like I said earlier. Very interesting comments on the chat. Thank you so much for your comments and questions. We appreciate them. Please keep them coming. Miriam, you just burst the bubble of a number of us. Farming is the in thing, as a matter of fact. Several of us with varying experiences. So now, for those of us who have been farming or been thinking about farming as the way to go, where does that leave us? Apollo, I would like you, from your experience as headmaster, and given the numbers of students you've handled, I know you've handled students who have asked you about what options are available to them. What guidance would you give to lawyers on investment options? Thank you.
Thank you, Agnes. Allow me also to add my thanks to Miriam. And you, Miriam, for submission. Options. Interestingly, our mandate as I head the unit called the Financial Literacy Unit at NSSF, and our mandate as the unit is to provide options. Now, what options are, and just to broaden it a bit without digressing, poverty is not lack of money. Poverty is lack of options. So if you don't have options, you are poor. So most people come to you and they say, so what do I do? What are the options? And they think there is a one size fits all for everyone. Personal finance is personal, and personal. That is why you will find I have a lawyer neighbor, friend. We are farmers. We are both farmers, like Miriam said. We planted maize. I planted maize. He planted maize. I got nothing. He got 10 tons. We planted on that. We used the same workers. So that solution, that option works for him. It doesn't work for me. So it is personal. I need you to first understand that and customize, understand what yours is. So before you even get into any other, I would call alternatives, let's start with financial options. And those are the things that are regulated by either the Capital Markets Authority, Bank of Uganda, IRA, or the OUBRA. There's quite a number of things there you can do, which will return very little money, maybe 10%, but 10% is good enough if it is guaranteed. Then if you have accumulated in those places, then you can move on to the alternatives. Now, I advise that you get into these options, not in retirement. Do them while you are. Don't buy swine. Don't buy, pigs. Don't buy them at retirement. Buy them while you are still in employment. You lose them while you are still in employment. Get that school fees and move on. But also don't start new things. Ask people who have done them. At NSSF here we have action groups. We connect you to people who have done things so that you understand from them how can you do them. So by the time you get into the alternatives, which we call real estate, everyone wants to build a house, an apartment, everyone wants to buy land. All those are very low yielding, by the way. First put a lot of money on these things: treasury bills, treasury bonds, provident funds. Don't even bring money at NSSF. Bring it and take it to another option. We don't. Our worry is not the money. It is what do you use the money for? So there's quite a number of things you can do with a regulated market before you can move. When you have things in when you have money in the regulated market, it gives you a license to put some of it in the unregulated and probably business and all that. It gives you that license, and you will not die because you've lost money. I hope I have answered or confused, but I've tried.
Yes, you've tried. Thank you, Apollo. Miriam, you're a lawyer. I would like you to think about our colleague out there. For every lawyer who strikes that multi-million billion deal, there are tens or hundreds of lawyers who are actually struggling to make ends meet, right? So there is that lawyer who is struggling to find rent for their chambers, as a matter of fact. There is that lawyer who will even struggle to get money for their practicing certificate renewal, right? So as you speak to us about save, 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 act, do, in some cases the spirit is willing, but is it what is unwilling? The reality is it is difficult. I would like you to speak to that lawyer.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Agnes. I think that's it's a very common thing because in school we had this thing of eat once, starve once. And I think that's what's happening to some people, that they do get some money, some good money. But think about the farms that have what we call reserves. How many farms have reserves? They're not there. Reserves mean rain will come. So if the farm has hit the deal of a lifetime, they're going to be able to give that money to the partners, maybe give some of the lawyers a bond. Look back, all of it is gone because they did not save for a rainy day. So you have to start where you are. We're not saying jump over the wall. We're saying start where you are. And class 101 when it comes to financial management is spend less than you earn, isn't it? So even as a firm, you have to have a plan for a rainy day. The other thing is we all want to start our own practices. But is it practical? Maybe not. Maybe people need to think about consolidating to reduce on cost, isn't it? And see, being able to have a plan, being able to listen to financial advisors. No one has stopped a law firm from investing in a treasury bond. Is that against the laws of the law society? No. How many firms have bought the 15-year bond, have bought the 5-year bond? But what if they did that? It means that they'll be getting money from the coupon and they'll get their principal back. But how many law firms have done that? None. So we are keeping our money in cash. Then when the partner is broke, what do? Withdraw the money. And there's nothing left. So let's start small. Let's start where we are. Let's listen to financial advisors. Let's do the practice differently so that we are there tomorrow for our clients.
You. Alice Akello, you asked a question, but I believe Miriam actually answered it. And thanks for joining the call, Alice. Alice asked when you were presenting Miriam, Apollo, why a plot in Kampala for retirement? I think you recall that bit. But Miriam actually did answer the question when she talked about these days some of us are sending our children abroad. So your retirement plan is to live with your children. It follows if your child in Washington, that's the example you say, if your child is in Washington, you will be looking at probably spending your retirement in Washington or close to Washington, but for that reason, then you won't be looking at a plot in the village or the rural setting. I'll give you an example. The other day, and Mr. Isharaza, please excuse me for using you as an example, we were having a debate about a piece of land in the village and whether we should keep it or dispose of it. In the spirit of this discussion we are having, financial literacy, because it's an idle asset. It's not earning us any income. So whereas I have emotional attachment to it, the reality is it's not earning us any income, and we do need income. And so he actually assured me and told me he does not see himself retiring in the village. So Akello, Alice, if you're like me, it means that I should be planning to retire in the city, okay? So our cases are unique. Our cases are unique, and we'll have various needs depending on what our plan is. Remember the dream we had at the beginning. Each of us has their own unique dream. So Apollo, Mr. Headmaster, and back to you. You have encountered risk-averse individuals, and I'm one of those. Very risk-averse, you know. I dare not do anything that may lead me to lose my investment. Advise me.
Actually, we call it financial intelligence. Uh, and I think I want to take part of the blame. We have gotten the world railed, and they are so excited about being self-employed, being you will not get rich at employment. You need to have a business. Now, I need you to go back and look at yourself as a person. You are barely performing at your workplace. You cannot, it's a supervised area, you have a manual, they told you what to do, but you are performing, you are barely performing. You are not getting what you need to get done in a supervised environment. And all of a sudden, you want to start a business. So, and very many people have been shy to say that, for me, you know what, I don't want to look into business. They fear the ridicule that will tell them that they are not financially intelligent, they are not, they are not smart. Now, I want to share the confidence. If you are risk averse, that's a starting point. You know yourself. It is it is actually strength. It's not a weakness. When you are risk averse, you know yourself, and there is a home for you to invest. There's quite a number of homes for you to invest, and you are being actually practical and being intelligent with your funds. So understand what your risk appetite is, and everyone wants to get high return, but with zero risk. That investment arena is not there. You be comfortable with the high risk, the low risk, but also be comfortable with a low return. Don't be greedy. So if you are risk averse, well and good, appreciate yourself and say they are vehicles. We have unit trusts. Now, a unit trust, and Miriam will add to this, a unit trust, I just want to give it as an example, but there are so many other vehicles. It's regulated by the Capital Markets Authority. We have Director Legal there. She can add that confidence. When you put 100 million in a unit trust, and I'm giving you just approximate figures as probably of yesterday, that 100 million will be giving you approximately 980,000 every month, with your 100 million still intact. Now, scale. If you want to retire at 3 million, accumulate 300 million. Why do you need to accumulate 300 million and then all of a sudden go into buses, go into chikubo, go into farming? When you go into farming, and let me stop with this. When you go into farming, I know my team is passionate about goats. You buy goats, you put so many goats on a farm, and then you will get these excuses. Your goat aborted. Your goat ate a cavera. Your goat was stolen. Your goat was knocked. Lightning struck, and it is your goat. Everything will happen to your goat. But you can put this 300 million, and people will laugh at you. You are being risk averse, but you will put it in a treasury bill, and you get 3 million every day. And there is no day, no, not every day, every month. There is no day the government will come out and say we are not paying. Actually, if they are not paying you for the treasury bond, then things have gone everywhere. So your risk, it is okay. Appreciate your risk. It is your strength, and then we will find an appropriate home for your money.
Thanks, Apollo. Miriam, Apollo requested you to add to his submission.
Want to know more about unit trusts, you can contact the Capital Markets Authority. You can also go to our website, www.cmauganda.co.ug. They are licensed unit trusts, and they can be able to give you information, or you can also call the CMA and ask for our team that deals with public education. They can take you through the information that you need. So I think that could help.
So as we went through this discussion, I got a few statistics specific to us lawyers from the fund, because again, like we saw earlier from the poll question, NSSF continues to be usually the only retirement option for several of our stakeholders. So at the fund, currently we have 292 registered law firms. I tried to find out how many we have in total, but I've not yet gotten that information. So we have 292 registered law firms with the fund. And of these, they are contributing for 1,985 employees. So as you know, usually the partners don't contribute because they're the employers. So 292 firms contributing for 1,985 employers. Thank you very much for the law firms that are doing that. So Miriam, using that statistic, what advice would you give to a law firm that has not considered or put in place a savings scheme for its employees? And related to that, what advice would you give the partners? Because it's one thing to contribute for your employees. How about yourself as a partner? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to start off by saying that there are different types of provident funds or retirement benefit schemes. We have what we call defined contribution schemes. Now, what is most common and what's known to many people is that you'll have a funded scheme where both the employer and the employee contribute, just like the NSSF is. However, in the industry, we have what we call voluntary funds, where only employees contribute. So if the law firm has financial challenges, they are not able to contribute anything towards your retirement, and as staff, you feel you have been moved by this discussion, you can take a step and tell the firm, is it possible for you to enroll us as a firm into a provident fund, any of the provident funds that are licensed by the Retirement Benefits Authority? And then it's the employees that contribute. And contribution rates can be 2%, it can be 3%, it can be 20%. So you have no excuse. You can do it. When it comes to the employer, this is a value proposition. If you look at firms that are doing well, these are firms that realize that part of the value proposition that they give to their staff is, I care about you. I care about what happens when you leave employment. So for the partners that are listening in, you need to explore this opportunity, because if you explore it, it makes you stand out as an employer of choice.
Thank you, Miriam and Apollo. We are getting a couple of comments, appreciation for your very passionate and incisive presentations. Thank you so much. Sozi Stephen, you say, thanks for the presentation. You are extremely challenged and you're taking action immediately. I think we're all excited to hear that. That's the spirit. Muhire Trevor has a question which I'll ask Apollo to answer. Muhire Trevor would like to know, in cases where the person who has served with NSSF dies, are there chances for family members to reclaim the package? And if yes, how? I think that's a quick one, yeah?
We have survivors benefit, and it's in the law. I want to say it's in the law, and you can come and claim under that. They can come claim under that. But I want to comment about 1,000 employees of 290 farms. When you take a quick study, you just walk around Kampala Road from Pioneer, or that former Pioneer Mall, and reach up to the lights. I can count at least about 100 law firms. What is happening to this number? I mean, there is a big problem with this number, and as lawyers, you need to get scared. Who is taking care of your retirement? And I know you have a quick answer. There is the next deal we will get. We shall work for life. But get scared. Get scared, because I feel like 1,000 people, 1,000 employees, and these are all not lawyers. There are IT people in there. There are T people in there. Who is taking care of your retirement? I feel like this is a very small number. I feel like the ULS, you need to do something. Start a provident fund. You can sponsor one, and the lawyers get into it voluntarily. Add some value to them, because guess what? You guys are going to, your next step is going to be going into theft, bringing up cases against. You will be seeing someone quarreling over some land. No, not even quarreling. You will cause a quarrel so that you can harness money from the people quarreling over that land. Why? Because you are not planning for yourself. I think, for me, this is a scary statistic. Back to you, Agnes.
Thanks, Apollo. So we have quite a number of questions. Unfortunately, we are pressed for time. I apologize that we'll not be able to go through all of them and the comments, but I guarantee that we'll be able to come back to you after the session and respond to your individual queries. But just one last question for you, Miriam, and Apollo, you can pitch in, again, based on the experience with students. What percentage of my salary should I save monthly as I plan for retirement? This is from Joanita Munyango.
So, Joanita, there's what we call the life cycle. And in the life cycle, we take into consideration the stage we are at. If you're a young lawyer, you're 25 years of age, you're staying at home, what are you using your money for? Put as much of it into the provident fund. So look at the life cycle. You might be able to put even 30% into a provident fund when you're younger. Then you have people who are now at the childbearing age, okay? You're finding that your expenses are more, and maybe you're not able to put 30%, you can put 10% into a provident fund. That is still fine. So you'd need to do your calculations, your mathematics. I will guarantee you that the more you can put into a provident fund, the better. But please don't put all your money into the provident fund and then you become a thief. Because remember, under the Employment Act, there's the total amount that can be deducted from your salary. And it is not supposed to exceed that amount. So you also need to check with your HR to see how much you're allowed. But there are people who save so much that they become an embarrassment to the law firm. They've put it all in the provident fund, they are working, they are doing what? Really embarrassing. But as much of it, taking into consideration your life cycle.
It is personal. I want you to go back to that place where it is about you and understand what is my intention. How much do I want to retire at? It's an amount. What amount is driving you? For me, 1 billion shillings is driving me, and I say when I hit that billion. So everything I do is targeted. Even my friends are targeted to 1 billion. If you are not adding to my 1 billion, you are not my friend. I need to get that. So that figure, the amount that you want to, that percentage, it is personal. It will be targeted to your goal. But finally, just also to add to Miriam's, you need to be able to eat your money. One of the things that people actually fail at, and in retirement, they can't actually eat their money. So when eating money, I'm not saying eat everything, but when you get into the habit of eating some of your money, you allow me to just use that English, eating some of your money, you can wake up the next morning because you know how sweet it is to eat this money. You know how sweet it is at KFC, was it coffee at Cafe Javas? You can go to KFC. When you know that feeling, that once you can do it once in a month, you have that feeling, and you want that feeling never to go away. You will work hard to just make sure that you have this feeling even when you are in retirement. Quit that person telling you that when you retire, go to the village. No, why? Stay in Kampala, be here, and be able to eat your money. But all that starts with you being able to amass that money. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Apollo. I think the gist here is when we talk about retirement, it sounds like this long, painful process, and we are saving for that happy ending that we talked about earlier. But the journey does not have to be a miserable journey. We've got to live life. In any case, we don't know when we are going to leave this earth, yeah? So as we strive to save, we should also get moments to actually enjoy the journey along the use of our finances. So I'll ask Apollo your last question, and then after I'll ask the two of you to give us your quick takeaways. So Miriam, you could be thinking about yours, and then we'll conclude. I would like this to close by 1. Apollo, from your experience, given the hundreds of people you've interacted with on this journey of financial literacy, is there a story of change, of transformation that has struck you so much that you think audience would benefit from? People who came to you desperate, not sure where to start from, and you've seen them turn their lives around, that could encourage somebody out there. Thank you.
One of my other jobs is to take credit. So I will take credit for the story, but I won't say that I was totally responsible. So in my former employment, I was in retirement planning. A lady approaches me. My job was to sell retirement products to these persons. So she, after working in a bank for 30 years, she had amassed good NSSF, a good provident. Also, she was such a structured person that every time she would get bonus, she would put in treasury bills. She had taken some mortgage, and she had amassed a few properties here and there. She had a property at the Brown Flats, I think 2 units. So they were retired. There were about 13 of them, long-serving employees. And I just pick out this because the stories of the other people are quite. But this person decided, she picked I think 100 and something million from NS, about 300 million here, 200 million from her provident. She sold her flat. Now this is a person retiring, but she sold the flat, which was now for rentals. She decided to sell because she said going to run around. She put together money from her treasury bills and actually came up with 800 million. Now, her colleagues were almost at the same level, and they also went into other. Some did business. I know one who went to Chikova. I know one who bought cows and put them on the brother's farm. But she decided to consolidate her money and then go into a conservative asset, which was the treasury. Then I sold her a unit trust. A unit trust at 800 million, she was able to get about, then the rates were good, 9.2, between 7.2 to 9.2 every month. Now, I want to take credit for that because this person has, I can't mention the name, but her problems have evolved. Like, her problems is, how do I spend 9.2 million? Because when she retired, she was getting 7.2 gross. Now, 9.2 million to spend. So, how do you start spending this? My problems with her, my conversations is, how do we expend this extra? She actually drives from Luzira to come to town and so that she can pay bills. She's looking for an excuse to come to the bank. I want you to start envisioning that life. And this is the life we need to have. I don't subscribe to the school that when you retire, your income needs to go down. You need to create problems for your children. Create problems that, I have bought you a plot, I want you to build in it. They have those problems, and these are the problems this lady has, and it is possible. Her friends, two of her friends, I'll tell you, and I'll conclude with this. Two of her friends, one of them did start something in Chikobo, and for her, even unfortunately, she had a child in S6, started something in Chikobo, also bought some trucks, and that time Juba was trading very well. So when she started taking flour to Southern Sudan, but when the war struck, it was her trucks that were burnt. I don't know how true it is, but it's usually your trucks that are burnt. You who's starting late. The other one who bought cows and put at the brother's farm, her brother, the brother, they were hit by lightning. They ate so many. All those diseases were only on her cows. Her brother's cows are doing well, healthy and everything, but hers. And these are people saying, I need to get there. I need to do in business. I need to. So, ladies and gentlemen, retirement is very lonely. But this lady, of course, they meet. Up to now, they meet at the Kampala Club. But you need to be able to afford. When you are at Kampala Club, you are the one buying. You are not worried that today we are taking water. People thinking you are healthy, taking water all the time, but you just don't have the money to take it. Thank you.
Wow, absolutely. It's possible. It is actually possible. And Apollo, now that you have the floor, can you give us your parting shots? What 1, 2, 3 takeaways would you like to leave with our audience as we conclude? Thank you.
My routine takeaway is, we need to grow up. We need to grow up. I have had this conversation. Fortunately, I have now gray hair, so I can count myself among the old people. So I can talk to people as if I am old. I'm not that old, but I can talk to you like that. But also the other reason is because I have grown up. I've decided to grow. I'm not just growing old. You just being your age does not, of course, at NSSF, when you are 55, it qualifies to get money. As in, that's the only qualification you need to be 55. But are you actually grown up enough to use this money? Grow up. Take action. Take action. I am an action person. We have so many action groups at NSSF, and they are for members. They are not ours, by the way. They are for members, and members, you are welcome to come and join in. But for each of these, the ones that excite me, I take off time because I still have the when I lose money, I can still come back and I just sit in office and I will still be paid. So I not that I'm lazy. Don't misquote me, but I take action. I just pick a little bit of my money and I try out things. We don't stop hearing these stories. As in, someone tells you money does not buy everything. Don't hear those stories. You get the money and then understand that it doesn't buy everything when you have it. Don't get into the conversation that money does not buy everything. And number 3, when you start a journey that is worthwhile, things are going to happen in your life. Things that, and I as a motivation speaker, I'll tell you, great things are going to happen, but let me tell you, also bad things are going to happen. I mean, you are going to lose. You're on the right track, everything you have done right, but you are going to lose money. But that is an indicator that you are on your way to progress. You cannot have money problems if you have no money. Money problems is for those who have money. I always tell my class that if right now they talk about that the cars are being burnt outside there, some of you are not bothered because you have no car. You cannot have a car problem without a car. So and only a car problem can come to someone who has a car. So when you start making big losses, it is because you are moving in a big way. So understand also problems will come to you. Of course, we'll tell you that good things will happen, but also bad things will happen, but take it as an indicator that you are on the right track. Thank you so much, my land friends.
Much, Apollo. Miriam, your takeaways for our audience?
I have 2 takeaways. First of all, I want you to know that you're not alone. Get help. Get help. We've spoken about this in a very short time, but it's important for you to go to people who can actually help you. One of the things I love to do is to help broke professionals achieve a level of financial independence by training them and counseling them. So there are people like me out there. There are people at the Capital Markets Authority. There are people at NSSF. Don't stay where you are. Go. The second thing I want to say to you about the whole topic about investments, retirement planning, don't be like a submarine. You know, they're about to go down and no one knows what they're doing. They are hoping to give you a big surprise. Then your surprise is the swine. We don't want that. Don't be like a submarine. I'll end by saying that the Bible says in a multitude of counselors there is wisdom. So don't go it alone. Get help. Speak to Apollo. Speak to people at the fund. Speak to people at the Capital Markets Authority. The help is there. Get help. We want to help you.
Wonderful. Much, Apollo and Miriam. You have delivered to our expectation. I believe the comments speak for themselves, of your challenge, of your provocation. And for me, really to remind you, the clock is ticking. Land colleagues, the clock is ticking. If you're that young lawyer I talked about earlier, or my colleague in my age, you're our colleague in the evening years, the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking. We've shared experiences, and we hope that this session has been helpful to you in one way or another. My clarion call is, if you 1, 2, 3 things, take action. Please take action. Let's not be like the still waters. You know what they say about still waters. Stir the waters. Take action. And I'm also a student in this. I think we are all students in this. It's a continuous learning process. I would like to leave you with a quote, usually quoted, Dr. Greg Reed's quote. We talked about a dream. Remember your dream at the beginning of this session? A dream written down. So can you please write down your dream, refine it? A dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. A plan backed by action makes your dreams come true. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking about retirement planning. Please make your dream come true. Please act. Thank you. Thus, I wish you a day and God bless you.